Welcome back to The Point. I'm Eric Mitchell. We have a good guest for you right now. You know my love of music. We talk about it all the time. Every kind of music under the sun. As most of you know, I produced an EDM film a few years ago. I don't want to age myself, but I will tell you about 5 years ago we produced it. It came out. COVID has kind of slowed down putting out the next two, but love music, any kind of music. You can catch me. It's probably the thing you can always catch me before air, after air. I love having music in my ear. So we have a great guest today, and our guest today is Alain Merville. And Alain, let's get Alain here. So we might as well have Alain here, and welcome to the show. Alain, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Eric?
I am excited to have you here. I love talking about music. Now, you have an online platform. You created an online platform for music, I guess, music education long before, students were jumping online, long before coronavirus, right? You were doing what you developed happened, I guess, purpose of my question here to lead off, and I'm stuttering and stumbling through it because all of a sudden my brain just went scattered on me. You've been running online education classes for music long before coronavirus, and now obviously everything's being taught online. Tell us a little bit about your platform and how you started it. Obviously started before Corona, but let's talk a little bit about your platform because I think it's amazing, but I want to kind of bring folks up to speed. And I always find it easier for the guest to explain their platform than me, who will just read it off of a cue card.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm happy to be here. Excited here, so I'm looking forward to this conversation. So the platform is called YousicPlay. YousicPlay is a music e-learning platform for music enthusiasts as well as music students, and really it's a way for music enthusiasts and music students to learn from their favorite celebrity musicians through our masterclass tier. And so basically, what it allows you to do is that instructor or that favorite celebrity musicians for how they became successful. So who their inspirations are, how they practice, how they warm up, how they develop their technique, how they solo, whatever it is that they do, it's in that course. Along with the video segmented courses, each student receives a digital and downloadable course book, which has chapter summaries, music notation, and practice guides to make sure that you as a student are learning the practical steps to be able to actually apply what it is that you're learning. So that's through the masterclass tier. We also have an academy tier, which is different because the masterclass tier, the focus is really that instructor, right? You're jumping into that course because you want to learn how Elise songwrites, and you want to learn how she does what she does. Whereas the academy course, the purpose is for the instrument. So those courses are taught by by elite college level instructors who teach you the standard way to learn that instrument. So the way that you're supposed to tune a guitar, the proper form, the fundamentals of the instrument. So that's the core aspect of the academy is to learn the instrument proper and standard way. And then we also have a private lesson feature, which allows all of our students, all of our users to book a private online session with an instructor. And it's really like an Uber-esque rather type of experience where you get to choose an instructor on the ratings based on their different skill sets. If a blues vocalist, if it's a music producer who focuses on solely hip hop, you get to see information about that instructor before you book a lesson, and you also get to create your own roadmap to success. So if you're, going into a piano private lesson, as opposed to just signing up for a piano lesson, you're signing up, and your objective is, I want to improve my soloing, I improve my jazz soloing. So the objective and the purpose behind that is really customized learning. So those are the major three pillars of the platform. And then all of the users get to create their own profiles. They get to message one another. They get to post images, post videos, take courses as a group. So there's a really community like add to the platform as well. So those are the good aspects of it.
That's great. So, Alain, let me ask you this. With COVID and people taking classes online, and I noticed one thing about your platform. It almost seems that taking these classes virtually is better than taking them in person. I mean, obviously, you have a pretty high level folks that are instructors, actually, talented artists. You wouldn't want to take music lessons from me because it would be really bad. But like, trust me, I'm not your musical instructor. But why do you think learning on computers seems to be, when it comes to music, is so much easier than in the classroom? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, well, you you made the point earlier that the genesis of YousicPlay was prior to COVID. COVID,
Yeah.
it's done to every learning platform. It's kind of given like a turbo boost. But prior to COVID, our objective was efficiency, convenience, elite level instruction, and world class customized learning experience. Students and want to be able to learn at their own pace and learn what it is that they want to learn. So it was important for us as a platform to be able to teach people things that they actually care about, but also making those resources available for any and everyone wherever they are. So with in-person learning, you're limited to a physical location, right? So you can't really access an A-list or B-list level musician rather physically. And so part of what we wanted to do was bridge that gap, was to give the student or the enthusiast access to the musicians that they look up to the musicians that they listen to their records and try to imitate what they do. We wanted to give them an opportunity to get to know those musicians.
That's good. So we'll move on to my favorite thing. Let's talk more about music. Now, you are a lifelong musician, right? You've loved music your whole life. How do you find music? And this is more of a personal question. Music during COVID. How important has music been to you? How often, and do you see artists thinking the same way about their music, that more of us are at home listening? I find myself, I'm a Spotify guy. I find myself in my Spotify more often. It takes me to my happy place when I'm stressed. I mean, music to me has always been my cure. Even when I was in the military, it kind of, you had your mission music, you had your I hear a song now, perfect example. My son, he's 13. He will play music that is, I'll age myself, from when I was in the military. And I find myself kind of laughing to what he's doing was very similar to things I was doing at the same age. Music is one of those things, to me, makes me feel good. Why books? I mean, I love reading. I read a book a week. But music to me is something I need every day. I can't go without. Like, when I see somebody running without headphones on, I'm like, how do they do it? I'm like, I don't. So where do you see music in COVID? How has it played a role in your life? Obviously, you've built an amazing company off of it, but you personally, as a lifelong musician, how has music played a role for you during 2020?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a great point that music, basically, music is a form of expression for people.
Yeah.
For me, if I'm having a long day, if I'm having a bad day, if I'm stressed out, I can always walk to the piano and kind of take it out on that instrument. With what's going on right now with COVID, this is probably the most stress that a lot of us have ever endured. And so you're dealing with depression, you're dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with just overall stress. And oftentimes when we deal with those emotions, we either go to, whether it's alcohol or like drugs or something to kind of get our minds on what's going on. Me, music has been that thing that I've been able to use to go to. And also, when you study music, the theory aspect of it, you learn that it's really full of patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding music theory allows you to develop your critical thinking skills. And so if you understand the theoretical aspect of music, Wes learning how to solo. So when you're learning how to solo, you have to be aware of where you are harmonically, what the drummer is doing, if you're playing with the drummer, where you're trying to go, and you have to figure out a way to navigate your way through that situation and get to a safe landing. And so for me, I just translate those concepts to a real life situation. If whatever I'm dealing with, I have to be able to see where the end game is and figure out a way to successfully navigate my way through this situation and have a safe landing.
I love the way that you said that. So let me ask you this, and I saw, and it just triggered my brain. I love this question only because I thought of it. I saw somebody, I don't know, on social shared it, and it was the Harlem Performing School. They were doing ballet out in front throughout New York, which was beautiful. It was, hey, sometimes classical music's beautiful. How do you see that when it comes to like jazz and classical music? How do you see the youth of today looking at that? I mean, obviously, if you're going the musical route, you have to pay respect to those who came before us, especially, you know, Mozart, those folks. I mean, they were amazing in their day and controversial in their day, but now their music is deemed as classical, which to some people, they would downplay it, right? And even I know some youth of our generation kind of look at it. But what do you see with your students that are coming on that are younger? Do they respect the fact that that's where it comes from, or do they look at it as like, it's not, you know, all this different genre of music we have? I know I'm big in the EDM scene, and my friends make comments that it sounds like, you know, robots doing various things, and rap music has changed so much. If you look at it from the days of the '80s, you know, coming up from the, you know, the Upper East Side of New York, where you had Run DMC and the Beastie Boys, and, you know, Rick Rubin out of a dorm room at NYU, you know, kind of, you know, creating Def Jam. And then you kind of look ahead. Music has changed so much. Even country music has become pop, right? I mean, everything kind of goes back. But classical music's that one steady thing that, shocking enough, always has more views or more listens on Apple and on Spotify than any other genre of music, which is crazy when you think about it. So for your students, how do they look at, and how are you guys able to teach the difference in classical music and what we have today, and how they all kind of tie in? Because it all started there and worked up, right? Because I remember growing up, we looked at the Beatles or Elvis as brought the change and even into hip hop, right? And then you watched hip hop change into, I mean, actually it was R&B, because you had all those different groups that came up back in the day, you know, even, you know, James Brown coming up that way. And then you kind of go through. So music has a progression. How are you teaching that progression for folks so they understand that everything has history involved in it?
Yeah, great question. I think the most important thing is showing how the different genres and the different eras are connected, you know, because it's really about appreciating the different genres. It's not like you have to be a virtuoso classical musician or jazz musician, but you want to be able to understand all connect. How before hip hop there was jazz, you know, so you don't have to necessarily know who all the jazz legends are, but first it's about establishing the appreciation for music, establishing the appreciation for the different genres. And then once we start there, then you're giving me something to work, right? So then we can talk, then we get into the history and the musical theory aspect and how they're connected. One thing that's helped me is I've been able to just be a part of many different verticals in the music industry. I've produced music, I've arranged music, I've been the musical director of artists. I currently teach at the Berklee College of Music here in Boston. And prior to YousicPlay, I owned my first company, which was a live music entertainment company that provided music for corporate events and things like that. So I've had to hire and train different musicians. And so what I've learned is that even at Berklee, so the students that I teach, it comes down to them, one, just not being exposed to enough of the different genres, right? So they're just growing up just listening to one thing, but also just not having an appreciation for something else. So what I try to do, and what we try to do at YousicPlay is make it relevant for that student. So that's where the whole customized learning approach makes sense. We have to, whatever it is that you're teaching, whoever it is that you're teaching, you have to get them to care about what it is that you're trying to teach, or else they're just gonna do you out. Yeah. And so if I can find where they're at and I can see what they're interested in, then I just have to figure out a way to tie the two genres, to show the relevance and to show how music as a whole is very much so connected.
Yeah.
You know.
That makes a lot of sense. So before you go, because we're short on time here, before you go, 2 questions. One, what is the future of online learning? Where do you see it going? And especially, let's make sure I say this right, Yousic. As long as you, I love that. I want to say music, and I know why. But what is the future of online learning look like, and how can folks learn more about YousicPlay out there?
Yeah, well, learn more about YousicPlay at YousicPlay.com. You can also find us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is YousicPlay. Same thing for Facebook. You can also find us on Twitter and YouTube. As to the future of e-learning, I think it's only going to grow. I think we're only touching the surface. And what we're doing at YousicPlay is we're really honing in on the whole tech aspect of music learning, whether it's with AI, focus on the customized learning, and a bunch of other things that I can't really reveal because it's not, it hasn't been really built yet. But I think COVID really showed the importance of e-learning, and whether it's e-learning or just remotely, I think the world is just going to transition more into that model. So this is just the beginning for e-learning as a whole, and this is just the beginning for YousicPlay as a company.
I love it. Well, Alan, I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been great. I love talking. As you can tell, I geek out when it comes to talking about music. And you have an amazing platform, YousicPlay, folks. You go check it out. You're doing big things. And I won't judge you that you're in Boston, and I'm a diehard Yankee fan. So I try not to pick on anything in Boston. You guys kind of like your sports in Boston just a little bit. But I want to thank you, Alan, for joining us. We'll have to have you back on real soon. Everybody else, will be right back after the break.
Let's get to the point with Eric Mitchell. Let's get to the point.